this week, this is always my favorite week of doing these calls, because what I actually get to do is I get to answer all of your questions. So through the week, through the month, we tend to get questions in our direct messages. We may get some emails from people. It may come from, sometimes it comes from our students, and lots of time it comes from the masterclasses that we do run. So questions to be answered as my phone keeps bipping things through. How does EFT differ from traditional talk therapy in addressing trauma? All right, so I'll give you some of my personal experience, and I'll give you some of what my clients have told me. When I went to talk therapy, I did some counselling after I left my first husband, and I know that because I just talked about it, because here's the thing, I talked about what was going on and I talked about how I was feeling. What happens in the body is the event happens to us once, or the thing happens to us once, or the impact happens once. And it's the retelling of the story over and over that re-traumatizes. The body knows how that feels. The body gets a bit addicted to how that feels. So when you just continually talk about what's happened and do this talk therapy, and I'm not in any way putting down talk therapy, it has an amazing place in our world, as my son tries to call me. It has an amazing place in this world. It always does. However, EFT takes it on steroids, takes it that considerably that much further. So when we do some talk therapy, here's me lost my train of thought completely. When we do some talk therapy, it's the re-traumatizing. So when we do EFT, what happens in EFT, let me get rid of that page. What happens in EFT is, while the body's been remembering how it felt and how those emotions are happening in the body and how those sensations and reactions are happening in the body, when we do the actual sort of tapping on the points, it's in the ability to do the tapping of the points that sends the message back to the brain to be able to release all of that. So it's the sending the messages back. So when you've got talk therapy and you're talking about something that happened a year ago, 3 years ago, 10 years ago, while you're talking about the event and you're tapping through the points, what you're able to do is help your body to release the actual sensations in the body and to release the actual triggers. It sends these messages back to the brain. It goes through our body that this is actually safe. So for me, that was very much the difference when I was not doing EFT and I was just doing talk therapy. I would get angrier and angrier and angrier each week, because what I was doing was I was not processing any of the emotions. I was not actually moving through anything that was going on for me. It was, how do you feel? Well, actually, I'm angry again, because there was so much going on in the midst of the divorce with the kids and all the rest of it, that there was so much that was just continually happening. So that's my view on what's the difference. EFT helps to regulate the body. It helps to regulate those sensations and the emotions and the stuff that's coming up. Whereas for me, when I did the talk therapy, I didn't get that. So there's the difference. Okay, number 2, are there specific EFT techniques that will work better for certain types of trauma? Not specifically techniques that will help with certain types of trauma, but let me tell you there's some great techniques in EFT that help people when they come through the traumas, or they want to work on their traumas, because of the nature of trauma and how they are. Something that's a trauma for one person may not be a trauma for another, or it may not be as significant or as substantial or as be impactful. So if we take it back a step and go, so we have a number of EFT techniques. Some of the techniques we have there's one that's kind of like sneaking up on the issue. So imagine that you've got someone who's had a significant trauma happen, and even the thought of that trauma, they get the sensations and the reactions in their body. We're going to do tapping right back at that level. We're going to do tapping on that total global stuff of, even when I thinking about that issue, even when I think about what has gone on and the idea that I've come to you, Lorna, and I'm going to even think about talking about that, my body reacts. So we're going to do some tapping right at the beginning, and it may be as simple as, when I think about the fact that I'm going to talk about this issue and my body reacts and I get this sensation, even when I just think about talking about it, I'm not even talking about it. I'm just thinking about talking about it, and my body reacts. I'm going to do tapping with people way back at that space before we even get into anything that went on for them. Because when we've got significant traumas, like big T traumas that are big, impactful stuff, we need to take it very, very slowly. Some of the other traumas, and depending on what it is and where the person's sitting with it, I'm not saying, we can categorize them, but when we have some of the traumas, we can go a little bit faster, a little bit deeper, depending on where it is. So we're talking the techniques that may be easier. We've got another technique, and it's tell the story. Tell the story is where the client is able to verbalize, they're able to talk about what happened, they're able to go through the incident, the events and the leading up to and what happened without really getting incredibly re-traumatized by it, being in a highly emotional state, being highly dysregulated. So we have to tell the story, and we would just do the simple thing. The client will tell us what went on and will tell us what happened and what happened and what happened and what happened. Our point as a practitioner is when we find the peak or we find the spike, as the client's telling us, and I walked into the room and this happened, there's the spike. We do more detailed tapping on that spike and we calm that down. Once we've calmed that down, okay, continue on with the story. And then I walked into the room and then this happened, then I moved through here and I went into this other part, then we get another trigger. Something else came up. We would do tapping on that part. The third great tool in this little toolkit is a movie technique. What it is when a client is unable to or doesn't wish to tell us the details, when they don't actually want to say the details of what went on, when they don't actually want to relive the details, they may be too embarrassing, they may be too shameful, they just may be not ready to tell. We have a movie technique where they do not verbalize it, they play the little movie in their head. We still do tapping and we still tap through the points, but what happens is when the client gets to the bit that peaks and the bit that really triggers them or is the shock point for them, we do more detailed tapping there on what's going on for them in that moment. Now, it's a beautiful technique because they don't need to tell me, you, their practitioner, what has gone on. It's a really lovely technique to allow them to keep that privacy. So while it may not be different types of trauma, they're the specific techniques that we do use that are very effective because it helps to not take our clients back into anything resembling trauma. We do not want anyone to relive the memory of what's happened to them. We want to help them clear it. All right, so number 3, how can individuals safely incorporate EFT into their self-help routine if they're wanting to use it for trauma recovery? So what I would suggest is if that is something you want to do, if you want to, you've got some trauma and stuff that's gone on, and let's face it, who doesn't? If you want to go through some of your trauma, I would suggest a journal. I would get some sort of journal so you can write out what's going on for you, and you can then tap on each of the points that's going on for you. It may be that you have a memory of something that happened when you were 6. You could write down, if you're able to, in your journal, the event that happened when you were 6, and you could just look at that and read it and do tapping while you're looking at the events of the thing that happened when you were 6. And you could just read what you've written and walk yourself through reading what you have written. You don't need to do anything fancier than read what you've written in your own journal about what's gone on. And what you'll be doing is you'll gauge in your body when the intensity comes down and when you feel calmer. So that would be my best way, I would think, if you're going to do it as self-help, to get yourself through any of the triggers and the traumas of stuff that has gone on. Use a journal, set aside some time, make it very specific and put a timer on it. Do not do it for hours. Just, set a timer, 10, 15 minutes, journal it all out, write what it is, and then do some tapping on that. Again, though, if you find something's particularly stuck or particularly traumatic, you may need a practitioner like myself to take you through that bit. Does not mean you register yourself in therapy for the next 3 years, definitely not. But you might need a little bit of support just to come through that one specific little piece. Next, are there any potential challenges or risks associated with practicing EFT for trauma without any specific or without any professional guidance? Are there any potential challenges or risks associated with practicing EFT for trauma without professional guidance? So this leads back to the questions I answered before. If you're going to take yourself through some of your trauma, there may be blocks that you find or memories or events that are very, very upsetting that you might want to seek some professional help for. You might want to just be able to ring, look, hey, Lorna, can you take me through this part? I've journaled out this part. I've got to this part of a specific event and I'm quite stuck. I can't seem to get over or get past it. Can we do a session? Sure can. Those sort of things are very, very easily done in this world. Potential challenges and risks will be, the main thing I find is the brain is so smart. Our brain is so wired to keep us away from danger, and that's even our dangerous thoughts. So when we have thoughts that come up regularly or come through our brains regularly about a specific event, and we can't seem to get ourselves past that, what will happen is when you come up against those memories that your brain doesn't want you to remember, it's packed them away for a really good reason. It's put it into, packed it away in your head. What will happen is when you come up against those, suddenly other things in the day that need to be done become very important. It's this weirdo thing that you're going along doing your thing and suddenly, oh goodness, I need to go and make a cup of tea. Or I go and I pick up my phone because suddenly whatever's on my phone is so important. I distract myself. I go and do something around the house, pick up the phone. Whatever it is, recognize when you hit that distraction point that you're journaling, you're doing your thing, you're getting some traction, you're getting some stuff done, and then suddenly all these other thoughts and all this other stuff comes into your head. Recognize the distraction. So to me, that's the challenge that you may or may not come up with, depending on what the trauma is, where it's packed away, how safely it's packed away, and what the actual impact was and what actually happened. Your brain may have packed it away so successfully that you might not be able to get into it yourself. You may be able to get so far, but you might not be able to get in as far as you probably would like to clear it completely on some things. So just be mindful of that. Can EFT be used as a complementary approach alongside other therapeutic modalities for trauma treatment? Absolutely can. My advice here will be, if you're working with somebody else, make sure that both of your practitioners know, or therapists, whatever word you're going to use, practitioners, make sure both of them know that you're using the other. All right, make sure that they know that you're using the other, just so that you're both on the same page. Some modalities, like I probably wouldn't use EFT and EMDR at the same time with a therapist. I would use talk therapy of some sort with EFT with different practitioners. Absolutely, they are easy and super easy to do and very, very, very complementary to each other. I would just make sure that, I said, both parties, the other people you're working with, both know what you're doing. Now, can EFT be used with some of your own self-help modalities? Absolutely. If you chose to do meditation, I do meditation on my own. I do EFT on my own. Perfectly great complementary processes for things that I'm doing on my own. So if it's something I'm doing by myself, I'm doing a cutting cords protocol at the moment. Going to get very trained up in this to be able to teach it as well. I do the cutting cord stuff. I can do my EFT on stuff and I can do my cutting cord stuff. Can do those quite well. So just be mindful of, is it something you're doing with other people so that you've got two therapist practitioners, or is it self-help stuff that you're doing? Just be mindful of that. They both can be very easily complemented. What is the recommended frequency and duration of EFT sessions for optimal results in trauma healing? Wow, this is a bit of a how long is a piece of string. So I'll talk about it in two instances. I'll talk about working with a practitioner such as myself and working as a self-help tool for yourself. In terms of frequency and duration, I would recommend people do in one sitting. So if you're going to do it as self-help and you've got your journal out and you know what you're going to work on, or maybe no journal, but you just know you've got this thing niggling you, you're going to work on that. I would do 10 minutes at the most, 15 at an absolute push for that session. I would not sit for an hour, even half an hour can be too long, and do this stuff on your own. I would do it in smaller chunk-sized bites than trying to deal with something that they're doing half an hour sort of stuff on your own. So if you're going to do it on your own, you're going to journal out, or you're going to have an idea of exactly what you want to work on. So you want to be very, very specific about what it is. That thing that happened when I was 6, I mean, you can label it. The thing that happened when I was 6, and it happened in the kitchen, and I remember who was there, etc. That sort of stuff, you're going to tap through all the incidents, you're going to write it all out, and you're going to remember all the parts of it that you can, and you're going to tap while you talk to yourself about that. 10, 15 at an absolute push. When you're on your own, once you get deeper than that, particularly when you're starting out, you just won't want to go deep in that. That's enough for your body to release in one sitting. Now, if you're talking about coming to a practitioner, the frequency and duration. For me personally, when I come to work with somebody, I love people to commit to 3 or 4 sessions minimum. Particularly if somebody's new and they're not doing a whole lot of their own work, I can't get a whole lot of traction, or they can't get a whole lot of traction and a whole lot of shifts in that one session. We can get so far, but what it does tend to do is it's like, great, I've released this, but then all these other little start to pop up. So I like my clients to commit to at least 3 to 4 sessions and give them work in between, or help them to guide their practice, their home practice in between, to really fast track the process. Now, in terms of duration, my sessions are up to 60 minutes. I know that that's long enough for my clients. When I'm holding space for them, I'm guiding them through. Their energy body is doing a whole lot of work. I know that 60 minutes with a client is probably enough for them to then not to feel too exhausted, because it's an energy work can be quite heavy and quite exhausting for the body to go through. In terms of what it is for your trauma, I don't think anyone can specify how long it's going to take to get you over your trauma. It is going to depend on how it shows up, what it's impacting in your life, your willingness to go deep, your willingness to do work in between, and I guess how committed to the journey you are. Again, a little bit of a piece of string thing, but they're the ways you can break it down. You can do some work on your own. I said up to 15 minutes a day. Each day you could do it twice a day. Just don't do a big block in one day, but you could do twice a day. You could do a small amount. You could come to sessions with somebody like me when you get blocks and start to move through some of it. And then the other stuff is actually sitting with a practitioner and committing to the whole journey. All right, we're keeping going. Are there specific populations or individuals whom EFT may be particularly beneficial in addressing trauma? Really fabulous question. Specific populations or individuals. I guess the people who are going to find the most benefit are the people who are ready for the work, who are willingly showing up, knowing that this is going to be a little bit tough, committed to their journey of wanting better, being better, and wanting to be that best version of themselves. Those people are going to find this more beneficial because they're ready, like they're up for the journey. And I think that's the thing. When people are a little bit half-minded, or I probably should, or maybe I have to, I don't think they get as much benefit, because it's almost like they're dragged along a little bit in terms of the journey, and they don't then come into it with an idea of, this is a benefit for me, this is so about me, I am so worthy of the shifts, and that's what I'm going to do. So I think they're the specific people. Okay, does EFT address the psychological aspects of trauma, such as the body stress response? Oh my goodness, it so does. That is probably the biggest premise of EFT, is it addresses those psychological aspects of trauma, the body stress response. What EFT does is, while we're doing the tapping, while we're doing talking, so talk therapy combined with the actual activation of the meridians on the actual body, you are actually sending signals back to that stress response in the brain to say, this memory that I'm having now, this thing I'm dealing with now, the thought I'm having with right now, it's actually okay. I'm actually safe. It's not going to harm me. I am safe. So the more of those that we send back to the brain to go, hey, look, this memory that I had when I was 6, I'm actually a grown up now. I'm all good. It's not going to affect me. I can breathe today. I can feel calm today because that's not there. The more of those that we calm and we release and we resolve, the less triggers there are through the day. And the triggers are what activate that stress response in your brain, because the stress response in your brain floods your body with a whole toxic chemical load of just adrenaline and all sorts of little chemicals, all sorts of hormones, all sorts of great chemicals needed when we need to move from danger. Now, remember, the stress response is the same as the need to move from danger. It's just that in this day and age, there's nothing eating us. It's our thoughts and our memories that are tripping us up. So that's what you want to do. So the more tapping you do, the better you're going to address that, the better you're going to calm that, the less stress response during the day, the calmer you're going to feel. You want to do that, trust me. All right, can EFT be applied preventatively to reduce the impact of potential trauma or stress? That's a really, really great question. I guess we're never going to be able to preventatively stop a future event actually having an impact on us at that point in time. What I think it will be able to do is, if you're using EFT and using tapping as an ongoing regular tool, when something does happen to you in the future, which is a trauma or a stressor, you have the tools at the end of your own little fingers to reduce that in the moment. Think of an antelope running through the paddock, a lion or a tiger or something comes up to chase it. It gets away, it takes itself away, and it's safe, and it goes back to eating grass. In the midst of that, it's had a good old shake. It's shaken off that stress response. It's shaken off all of that, and it just goes back to its normal life. It's no longer thinking 15 minutes time, God, I almost got eaten by that lion a while back. Oh, geez, remember last week when I got chased by the lion? It doesn't have those thought processes. Us as humans do. We go back and we relive that thing that happened. Because we'll be sitting, we almost got hit by a car 3 hours ago. We'll go and sit at lunch and go, God, that was pretty tough. I almost got hit by that car. Other animals aren't doing that. So we continually add that extra stress response into our body. So if you're using tapping on a regular basis, you will then have, gosh, I almost got hit by that car. Oh, I almost got hit by that car, but I didn't get hit by the car. Okay, maybe I shouldn't have stepped out. Maybe I should have been paying attention. Ooh. And just breathe out that stress response and let it go from your body. No longer have it as something that you relive, no longer something that you talk about again. It just happened, but it didn't happen, and you let it go. If you're schooled in doing that, anything that comes up in the future, you will be able to do the tapping in the moment, because you'll know the tool works and you'll know how to regulate your own body. All right, we are just about on time, and this has been wonderful. I love answering these questions. There are some other questions here, and what I will probably do is create smaller videos and we'll just pop them into the group for you to answer far more of your questions. But keep them coming. We just love to answer the questions. I love to have the space to share with you, educate with you, and assist you and support you in this journey. Much love to everybody, and have a wonderful, wonderful day.